and welcome to November and Beyond. I am Dave Kirkpatrick, the host. No, I'm not the host. I'm the producer of the show today. My friend Heather Stockwell from Rights and Democracy is going to do the interview today, and we're going to go down to Peterborough to the farmers market and speak with Kate Coon about voting in the primary, voting during COVID, the women's vote, and all kinds of other stuff. And before we go there, I'm going to just let you know that I'll come back at the end to talk to you about how you can be a guest on the show or a guest host on this show. I would throw the doors open to people who would like to participate in this sort of thing. If you would, this is my info here on the screen. You can send an email to me. That's the easiest way to get me. If we're friends on Facebook, you can go right ahead like that. If you have my phone number, you can give me a ring. Doesn't matter to me. So give me a ring if you're interested in working with me or being on the show. And I guess that's all I have to say about that. Let's get straight to the program. We'll go down to Peterborough and meet Heather and Kate.
Hey y'all, we're down here at the Peterborough Farmers Market today, Wednesday from 3 to 6. The farmers are out here. It's really an awesome day. And I ran into my friend Kate Coon with the League of Women Voters chapter here in the Monadnock region. And if you don't know me, I'm Heather Stockwell from Rights and Democracy. A lot of people know me, so I guess I assume that everybody does. I've been around here for a long time. So, but yeah, so Kate and some pals here down at the farmers market have a little booth set up with voting information. So we wanted to share some of that information with you today. If you haven't voted yet, we have some, of course, different circumstances this time around with COVID-19, and a lot of people don't want to go vote in person because they're concerned about all the people that will be at their town halls and things congregating. And there's other concerns I have, like just all the pens that we use communally and things like that. And so I was really glad to have that as an option, but I've already voted. So I want to take people through this, like if they haven't done anything yet, like I'm hearing things about some deadlines. And so I just want to provide some information for folks so that they really have the correct factual information. Yeah.
Super. Okay. Can you hear me okay under the mask, through the mask? Okay, that's great. Well, thanks, Heather.
Yeah.
It's always great to run into you. And we
always.
do sometimes run into each other here at the farmers market and in other things. Heather and I also intersect through Open Democracy.
Right.
And last weekend we were co-sponsors, Rights and Democracy, Open Democracy, League of Women Voters, Cheshire Historical Society, Wolfpack, and I'm forgetting somebody. But anyway.
Probably, there's probably one more in there.
So we were co-sponsors for the Granny D Memorial Walk, which was in Keene, and the theme of it was 100 years of women walking for democracy. So Heather and I got to share that experience, which was pretty great. And of course, this week, League of Women Voters have to put in a little plug for the fact that it's 100 years since the 19th Amendment was ratified. And while it definitely did not get the vote for everybody, as we say, it got the vote for white women, it did say that women could not be denied people could not be denied the right to vote on the basis of sex and gender. I don't think they even use that word. So about voting, so we all care a lot about voting. So 100 years ago, when the 19th Amendment enfranchised, as I say, white women, that's when the League of Women Voters also started, and its whole purpose really was to help people get information so that now you have the vote, use it, basically, right? So that has continued, and Open Democracy and RAD and pretty much so many organizations right now are just super concerned because we know that it's so important anytime to vote, but particularly this year.
Right.
And what happens if people just don't feel that they can vote? Like, wait a minute, I don't feel safe.
Right, and so this year we have this option. Right, this year we have an option in New Hampshire to sign up for an absentee ballot.
Yes.
Which is a little unusual. At first, the form said you had to say your disability was that you were afraid of COVID. Well, that's different now.
Yeah, let's sort of take it to where we are. Because, and sort of the circuitous route that got us there. And again, what Open Democracy and other people say is you shouldn't have to choose between your health and your vote. That should not be a choice
Right.
that anybody's making.
Right.
And so, fortunately, reasonably early, the governor, I think it was an executive order, said, no, okay, this year, and it's again only this year, because New Hampshire doesn't have no excuse absentee voting
Right. We
or
don't have
mail-in
early
voting or things like
voting
that.
or
It doesn't
anything like
have
that.
those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But he did say this year, yes, COVID-19 is quote unquote an excuse for absentee voting. Good. The other thing to be said is, and this is actually a plus for New Hampshire, that New Hampshire is one place where you can register to vote on same-day voting. You
Right.
can register to vote in person. What I have found living out of state is registering to vote in this state is more cumbersome in some ways than in other places. But at least people would have that option if they didn't listen to any of this stuff about getting it done early and they said, oh my God, I still want to vote. I'm not even registered. They can go in person, and there's a lot of work being done to guarantee that it'll be pretty safe.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
All the poll
absentee
workers
yeah.
want to be safe too.
I know.
So.
Well, here's what I did in Peterborough. As I said, we did a test run because we had a town election in
that's
July.
right.
There.
Right here.
Yep. And so
Cool.
I voted absentee because I wanted to vote absentee, and I was a poll worker as well because
Just
I
to
thought
test it.
well,
because
and
it was a
also
test
because
run.
I know
might
I
as
felt
well.
like Linda needed the help, and I was willing to do it, and I did feel safe at that point. And when I was in there, it felt very safe. As far as pens, everybody got an individual pen.
Cool. Oh, great.
So you get your own pen. That's part of the
Wow.
PPE for voting this year, and there's a lot of sanitizer, and there's separate things. But that being said, we have a small population. We had a big area. It was airy. I think polling stations and polling situations in other places are not necessarily like this. So
Sure.
that was
sure.
special.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this part.
Yeah, so the first step is you've got to fill out your absentee ballot request form, which I
Right.
think some people.
And I thought I just
we
had
thought
it.
we had that one.
Yep.
I think some people are a little bit confused. They think
Yeah.
they could just go get their ballot right now at their town clerk, and that is not.
Yeah,
you've gotta,
no.
You've got to do
No,
this
no,
request
no.
form first.
Right, right.
And so that takes a little bit of time. You've got to fill it out and return it to your town clerk.
Yep.
And then in the mail, within a couple weeks, usually, I think it's 10 days, they say it's usually there.
Yeah, so let me walk people through that. And as I say, we're here at the farmers market, and we printed out a bunch of absentee ballot request forms because
Cool.
otherwise, you have to go to your town clerk's website and download it, or the Secretary of State's and download it. That means you have to print it, that is a little bit of a hassle.
Sure.
But that's what you do. You get that form. It's pretty quick to fill out. So that's your absentee ballot request form, and you can put that in Peterborough. You can put it in the mail slot in front of the townhouse. You can mail it. You can give it to your town clerk. Okay,
So
good.
something that I didn't.
Okay, so let me just say. So there's two
I
things
wanna
about
let
it.
you finish this part. Yeah.
So then you check off, I'm voting absentee by reason of COVID. Okay, so there's a thing to check there. The other thing you're going to do now, this is the instructional part of this video, is fill out the form now and request your absentee ballot on one single form for both the primary, which is September 8th, and the general,
So two
which is
separate
November
forms.
10th. No, one form. One form.
They're down to one form on this now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what I say, Heather. This is all moved
I
very
did mine.
quickly.
I was way ahead of time.
You
so
were way ahead of time.
I had
You
a lot
did
more
too.
hoops to jump through.
And so then
Great.
people filling out their absentee ballot request form now, what is today? August 20.
Wow.
No,
20
August 18th. August 18th.
Yeah, right. It's around the 20th.
You should be good. You should get at this point you should get your primary ballot back quite quickly.
Yep.
And then, like everybody is saying, just turn it around and get it
Right away.
turned in sooner.
So
so
some
go
people.
ahead.
Well,
Ask
some
me
people are
questions about
concerned
this.
about
Yeah.
the postal service. So
Yeah.
I'm hearing some talk. Like personally, I just brought mine. I made an appointment with my town clerk.
Yep.
And dropped it off with
Yep.
her. But I didn't realize that it had to be my ballot. I lost. So
Ooh, okay.
I
Let's
lost
hear your
the
story.
envelopes. I lost the two
Oh.
envelopes that it was supposed to go in. And so I just showed up with my ballot. I had gone through this pile of papers, and I was like, it's not here. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, my town clerk will know. We have a really wonderful town clerk. We're very lucky.
You live in Dublin.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
And so she hooked me up with the envelopes and put it all in there for me and got my name. Yeah. So just something to know. Like, I didn't realize that was an important thing, because my next step was maybe I'll just go get a plain envelope, but it is important that it is in that envelope.
Yeah.
So
that's true. So 2 steps. Yeah. So you first, the simple form that we've given you at the farmer's market, or you can pick up at your library, and that's to request your absentee ballot. You're right.
And then
your town clerk sends you the ballot. First, the ballot for the primary. And then you say, well, where's my ballot for the general? Well, it's not going to come yet, because we got to wait for the primary. Right. So you get that, and you open it up, and then you follow those instructions really carefully. Like there's something called the affidavit. That's really important. You've got to sign it. You've got to sign it. Sign your affidavit. And so if you remember from filling that out before, and we have a little...
Oh, that's if you're registering, right?
No. This is returning your absentee ballot. You did this. You had to sign your affidavit.
I didn't even realize.
Basically, you filled out your ballot, then you sign something. Okay. And this is a little tricky, because there's the inside envelope. One part says...
That's where you sign it. It's on the inside envelope. Yeah.
And you have to do that, or your ballot will be invalidated.
Right.
So you've got to sign the affidavit. So your absentee ballot comes with all these instructions, and I just would advise everybody to go click, did I, just run through it, because it's kind of intense.
Yeah,
it's a little intense.
Cumbersome. Yeah.
And that's where, that's then the questions that we're getting a lot of is like, then what do I do with it? 55-cent stamp will get it. It's no other postage than that. It's a 55-cent stamp. We wanted the Secretary of State to pre-stamp.
That's right. I remember
the envelopes.
when we were trying
They
to
didn't
push
do
for
that. They didn't do that. So 55-cent stamp. If you're worried about the mail, then depending on your town, you should just be able to go to your town clerk. But you can't sort of stuff it in. Can't stuff it through the door. You can't stuff it in the mail slot.
Don't put it through a mail slot or something.
Can't.
It has to be like a specific lockbox.
A very specific thing. Yeah.
I really felt pretty strongly that I wanted to get it to her specifically, because I feel like once I get it into that office, she has the box there that she can put it in. It'll be safe.
So I just want to go to another concern and another thing that's new this year, which is good. And again, this is something we pushed for. Is, okay, so you're going to see this gigantic increase in absentee balloting.
Right.
You're going to see, usually it's like less than 10%, vote absentee. It could be 50%, it could be 60%.
Could be.
So then the concern is, how are they going to count those on time?
It's going to take a little longer, right?
But now they're going to let them start opening the outside envelopes earlier to get it ready, and then the ballots will all be counted on Election Day. So,
wow.
But before, that was a concern. There was something like the clerks couldn't open the envelopes, start opening the envelopes till 1 o'clock.
They have that. Yes, they have some protocol that
they changed that. So those are those little down in the weeds things, but you can imagine how people's concerns would extend backwards. So this is a good thing too, that the clerks are having time to.
Right.
So what the clerks are all saying is, get it back to us early. Don't sit on it. Don't wait. And that's what everybody, because you're concerned about the mail too, don't sit on it.
Right.
Don't wait. No, and that's a different kind of planning than people have had to do. And I think that's hard.
Yeah, that's sort of how I was feeling about it. It's like, I have to, make sure I get my ballot back. Well before, September 8th is the primary, right?
Yeah, well, you really, again, if you're a last minute Louie like me, you really only have to get it back on September 8th.
Right.
But all I'm saying is, to think that you have to do like these 4 extra steps just in order to vote, I think we're all worried, like, are there people who are going to go like, oh, crap, I didn't even think of it, I didn't do it, now am I going to do it? So but I do think, honestly, the statistics of people requesting absentee ballots, there's a lot. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are aware of it, and they're thinking, I do want to vote this year.
Yeah, right.
Do you think?
It's a big year, yeah.
I don't know. Just trying to think what else to make sure people know. Yeah, I think, in terms of progressives, there's certainly the message needs to be said that, in a sense, the obstructionists, shall we say, want us to distrust the process.
Right.
They want people to think, whoa, I don't think,
This is, right.
like,
It's not
I
going to
don't
be
know.
fair. It's not going to be
fair.
safe,
My
it's not
vote
gonna
won't get
be-
counted. And that's, as somebody even called it, the Trump trap the other day.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that
that's
I think
interesting.
as progressives, we want to say, oh no, your vote really counts, and certainly anybody who's sitting in public office right now can tell you that it can
Yeah.
be a 10 vote difference, it could be a 200 vote difference in a swing county. Your vote could really,
It really matters. And,
really matter.
I also feel like,
Yeah.
a lot of people come out and vote in presidential years.
Yeah.
Or in presidential races. And it's so much, I feel like it's so much more important than ever before. Not that it wasn't important before. But to vote for those down ballot races, like our state
100%.
reps and all of those county treasurer, the more I learn about what those offices are
know.
doing and what they're responsible for, it really, really makes a difference in what happens in our communities. I mean, county commissioners and county treasurers, I have a whole new appreciation for those positions that I just didn't really understand how crucial they were to
Boy,
our
I'm with
communities.
you, and I'm still actually, that's why I haven't done my primary ballot yet. I'm still learning a little bit more about some of those down ballot
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, there's a few with primaries.
Yeah, with primaries, it's like, okay, I just learned the other day some of the things that the county commissioner does. I haven't
Right.
always paid attention to that.
Yeah.
And maybe it just occurred to me, maybe that's again one of the benefits for those of us that are getting our ballots earlier. Like, I'm looking at this now a couple of weeks ahead of time instead of at 10:30 in the morning when I've gone in there to pull the lever, right? Like, oh, county commissioner,
Yeah,
right? I have time more time to research it.
Although it was interesting, I've gotten a couple messages from people asking where to find information about the candidates because of the newspaper. Newspapers are sort of dwindling now. People aren't maybe probably buying them as much. They're probably reading more online, and I don't know what kind of coverage they've had. And I suggested, most of them I know have either a Facebook page or a website of some sort that you can do some research on them. And then, of course, if there's organizations doing good work around some issues that you really care about, whether it's the environment or like Rights and Democracy does their own endorsements, based on multi-issue platform. But 350.org, Sierra Club, places like that, they also do some endorsements and might have some information available there about where they stand on certain issues, at least.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. It's not. I used to depend on those little profiles in the paper.
Right.
So in terms of League of Women Voters, we do candidate forums. That's another thing that League of Women Voters does. But we don't do one-party candidate forums. So we can't do like a Democratic primary candidate forum. See what I mean?
You actually can if you invite all the legally you can if you invite all the candidates.
Yeah, but we would have to do a republic. No, we could do them in the general. We can invite anybody in the general, but as a League of Women Voters, it's not appropriate for us to do a Democratic primary
Gotcha.
candidate forum. Do you see what I'm saying? And then a Republican one. But anyway, the Peterborough Dems, for instance, are doing a candidate forum for the Democrats that are being primaried. So
we also do forums too.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. We did one on the executive council race for
good.
District 2 because there were 6 candidates.
Oh.
And people were starting to come to me and go like, who do I vote for? And I was sort of like, oh my gosh, I got to do some research too.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think we should do a forum.
When did you do that?
It was probably a couple weeks to a month ago. It's on our YouTube channel.
Oh, so I can watch it.
And we had 4 out of the 6.
Okay.
I felt pretty good about that because I felt like one didn't seem to be doing much campaigning, and so I don't think his race is super serious. And
interesting.
Okay. I don't know why the other person didn't show, but didn't
Right.
maybe think it was important.
So
to be there, but
we have done, and we will do again, candidate forums
Yeah.
for general elections. And we're not going
Yeah.
to do the presidential one. We're not going to do like the state one. Somebody else will do those. But we'll do the things like state senate, state reps,
cool.
executive council. So maybe we'll be able to coordinate. Or
Yeah,
something.
cool.
I
That
don't
would be
know.
fun. That would be fun because I feel like, especially where we have those things where we're like, whoa, I'm confused about this issue
Yeah.
or candidates. Like, yeah, how do we decipher
Yeah.
who the
I
best
mean, the
person
best.
to throw our vote at?
And that's why I love getting, when we started the league chapter 3 years ago, that's one of the things
Yeah.
I've loved about it is it gives a space for that you otherwise don't get. So there's 2 people or 3 people running
Right.
for office. They're in the same room together at the same time. It's not just one person with their sign
the
and
Zoom
their
room now.
stuff
Yeah,
down
right,
here,
right, right.
or whatever. Yeah, it'll be a Zoom thing.
Yeah.
But everybody gets the same question. Everybody gets the same amount of
time.
time.
Yes.
There's it's
We
a
did,
it's a very level playing field
Yeah,
for getting
when I was
that
with
information.
working more with the Democrat
Yeah.
stuff, I did one for our Senate district last time around, and it was great. We
Yeah.
got them all there,
Yeah.
and we really heard what each one of
Yeah.
them had to say about
Yeah.
a lot of great issues,
Yeah.
important
Right.
issues.
And then that really gives voters a chance to go like, I saw how Heather answered that question. I saw how Kate
Right,
answered that
right.
question. Okay. And then you go another round of questions. Okay. You begin to be able to assemble
Right.
a sense of how that candidate is going to respond to the issues that you care about.
Yeah, and then you can put your own sort of lens in it and go like, I know that
Right.
these issues are super important to me
Right.
as a person, and
Right.
I'm a farmer, so the environment is
Right.
I want to make sure we have a clean environment so that I can
Right.
grow food that's healthy to eat. So
Yeah.
I think
And that you had a chance to ask that particular question, and again, you probably doing them the same way, but here's the questions that have been, and nobody gets the question ahead of time so that they can like,
right, right,
But
right.
we have this question, or we have 3 questions that are asking about your position on, land use and local farming or whatever. Could you please each address it?
Right.
And that way, hopefully, you've asked that question and gotten your question in front of the candidates.
Yeah.
So anyway,
good
that's
stuff.
another thing too.
It's something
Yeah.
I've been talking to a couple people about too. Is like we have this big long questionnaire, and it's not that long anymore. But I said a red flag for me is when somebody said they're going to be a champion for every single issue. Because I'm like, there's a lot of issues. It's so hard, right? Like, and then they all intersect with each other, right? And so, yeah, I think, there's a lot to educate ourselves on. So,
Yeah, and that's so here's the question too is, so of course people can't canvass in the same way, and that's not
Right.
necessarily a terrible thing. I mean,
sure.
the way some of us sometimes feel about, even though they say the most important thing you can do is engage face to face and
Right.
have a real conversation
But
with
some
people.
people get get their doors knocked on multiple times.
And then
they're,
you don't, and then you get the empty door and so forth. And
Right.
so that's one thing. And I was extending that to think about candidate forums, like who comes to the candidate forum. So when we had the one last May for the Peterborough Select Board race and some other things,
Right.
it was a very hotly contested thing. So we packed Bass Hall,
Yep.
But other times, like maybe 10 or 15 people are going to come. So what if you're on a Zoom platform? Again, maybe
Right.
you're still not going to get that many people,
Right.
I don't know. But then I guess I realized, I'm just
you
talking to
can
myself.
record it, and then
Record
as
it
they
and
say,
then,
we put it on our
the
YouTube channel. Or
that's true.
we were trying to do Facebook Live that night too, but I don't know if we just didn't have enough. Isaac was having
Yeah.
issues with setting it all up, but
Yeah.
so that didn't happen. But we've shared it.
Yeah.
shared it
Do you have
through.
a sense of how many views it's gotten, or?
That one, I don't know. I haven't looked recently to see how
Yeah.
many views.
Yeah.
But we had about 100 people, I think, at
That's
that one.
awesome.
That was.
Yeah. If we got that
great.
many, that would be incredible.
Yeah, actually, we did an Andrew Valinsky event the other night. We had about
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same, about 100 people.
And how are you advertising?
Oh gosh, multiple ways. I guess we do. We do email list and Facebook, social media. a little bit of everything. Really.
Yeah.
Getting the word out through networks.
Okay. Well, when we get ready to do our candidate forums.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you'll do some after the primary with like the Democrat and the Republican.
Oh yeah. So for the
running.
general, right?
Cool.
We'll do our classic playbook candidate
Awesome. Well,
forums.
I'm really looking forward to that.
So the trick for us, for our league, is that we are 11 towns, so we're a broad area, and so that works
Yes.
fine when it's things like the Senate, state Senate race, because that's only a few people, but for reps, that can be a lot. So what we have sometimes done is divide it geographically. And again, this is actually where I think this format will probably be easier for us, because it won't be so hard to like, okay, Monday night we're doing, Hillsborough districts 3 and 5 or something like 25 and 19 and Floterial 34, and then because one time we did it like a speed dating thing. Do you remember that?
I think
do you remember?
I do
Did you
remember
come to that? We did it in Jaffrey.
I don't know that I was able to come to that, but I remember hearing
Yeah, that's
about
what we
that.
did,
It was
because
really
again,
cool.
we've got this volume. And yeah, it was really cool. And actually, the biggest problem of it was a little bit of noise overflow. Like, okay, there's this group of people talking animatedly down there, and then it's like, okay, 5 minutes switch. And people said, well, wait a minute, why should I go listen to the candidates from Ringe and Temple if I'm from Peterborough? And I said, because they're all sitting in the same state house and making decisions.
Yeah.
So you need to grill
and
them.
Those,
and
in those
what they
regions
think,
where they come up, I guess they don't really overlap. But I mean, in a way they do, because it's like I live in the next town, but it's not like I come here for shopping and stuff.
That's
right?
what I mean. It's quite a lot of impact, cross impact
totally.
on some of those positions. So. So all of that is, giving me the heebie-jeebies to think about the technology of it. So Dave will run them for me, right? He'll come and cameraman them. I mean, one thing I've learned is that probably for some of these things, if you're doing on Zoom, the webinar function of doing it is probably better than a regular Zoom.
Might be.
Might be.
It depends on. It
Yeah.
depends a little. I think maybe for if you're gonna do a mixture. I would say.
So that's the kind of thing I'm feeling like we're going to have to kind of get up to speed.
I saw actually a great webinar that Liz Tentarelli did on the history of the women's suffrage movement.
Yeah.
Which I thought was so interesting, because I feel like we always learn about like after. It's like.
What got us there?
We're here. We got the votes, and it was like it was really cool to like just hear like all of the struggles that they went through, and like
it's a good reminder.
With the work that we both do, it was a really good reminder, and just sort of went, okay, these people struggled for like at least a decade, 2 decades.
Oh, maybe? More than that, as she said. I was actually watching last night.
It was late 1800s, and then it was like 1920.
Yeah, well, it was 1920. I mean.
So, decades.
Right, and so actually I was watching last night. She did a talk, it's about a half an hour, her and Maggie Hassan, on a split screen. And so Maggie, with Senator Hassan, it was on that day. It was on the 18th.
Nice, yeah.
And so she was particularly sort of saying, well, tell us about, New Hampshire and the role that New Hampshire played in this. But as Liz said in that there were women who really, they did actually spend their whole lives working on this struggle, and they died before the ratification. So that before they could vote or before the ratification. Right. So they never got to see, and you and I, when we've talked about the Granny D thing, she died at 100 and she didn't
still
live.
Working on
she didn't live, she worked really hard. But we didn't. So that's a reminder of a long time on. The other thing I think is fascinating about the suffrage thing is, the questions about more in-your-face, aggressive, upping the anti-tactics versus, more accommodationist tactics. And what kind of blend of that ends up bringing about the change. So Alice Paul's hunger strikes and demonstrating in front of Woodrow Wilson's, in front of the White House, Kaiser, Wilson and things like that.
They kept escalating.
So the
yeah.
combination of that and the sort of the more patient, quiet stuff,
Right.
like what. So I think, in any struggle, in any movement, you have those same tension points.
Right.
How should we play this?
Right. We
How
go
do we
back,
play
we
this?
strategize, and
Right,
then
are
we go
we
back out,
moderate
see
or
how
are
that
we
works,
radical,
and-
and what combination of those things makes things
Right.
happen. So, yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
an ongoing conversation.
It was, definitely
but,
some good perspective from, I
yeah.
think, where we're both sitting.
Yeah.
Kate, thanks so much for coming out and just
Yeah.
sitting and talking for a few minutes today.
always
This was
fun.
so fun. But just
Can I put in another plug?
Yeah, let's do it. We
All
got
right,
a couple.
So League of Women Voters. So League is definitely, grappling with its history. I will say that in a good way, and much more aware of its need to have diversity, equity, and inclusion, and true justice, and things like that. So that's one thing. So, the current president is Dr. Deborah Turner from Iowa City, an African American medical doctor. She's amazing. And as she said, about the vote, hard won, not done. So that's one thing. And then, as we're always saying, and other progressives are saying, your vote is your voice. So we do think the vote is important, even if it's not going to do everything. So really encouraging people to register to vote, to make that effort, to make it a habit, to talk to other people and say, oh, you should vote, like kids, registering them, stuff like that. So that we just, sort of as a fundamental thing, believe it matters. And then the other thing to say is that the League is one of the partners this year with the with the Census 2020.
Oh,
so
right.
it's a similar
Yes,
thing.
the
It's like
census.
there's attempts to maybe not, the census is constitutionally mandated every 10 years. It's been with us since the beginning, like the Postal Service.
Right.
It should not be short-circuited by starving it of funds, of trying to end it early. That's really bad. It's got significant impact on the things that our organizations care about, particularly redistricting and gerrymandering, and representation.
It's all about representation.
So your vote
If
is
you
your
don't
voice
fill it
and your
out,
representation.
then
So
you're not in the mix of
so
representation.
we're definitely concerned about undercounts and undercounted populations. And so again, League of Women Voters is after you to fill out your census too. Good. Tell everybody else to too. It's really easy. And,
it was a breeze. There was not
it's a breeze.
It was not really a question I couldn't answer.
It's another one of those things. Like, it's easy to think voting's a hassle and to end up not getting around to it. Same thing with this.
I
It's
think
like,
the
please
census
take
was
care of it.
actually easier.
Oh, it's way easier.
Our voting
it's
process this time.
significantly
So-
easier, but it's just.
But do both.
So do that and care about it and boost it on your social media and
It's important.
It's important. So that's, and the little bumper sticker I say for that is, count everybody, because everybody counts. So it's just
love
like
that.
everybody counts.
Everybody
So
counts.
everybody who can vote, we want all your votes.
Yeah.
That's where
right on.
I'm coming
All
down
right.
on this
Well,
stuff. So
Kate, love what you're doing.
okay, so
We're gonna do more soon, and I'm gonna go check out some of these drums over here.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
thank you.
Take care.
Well, there certainly was some good information there, a lot of information there, in fact. And with as little time as we have left, I know this is going to hit the internet with a little over a week to primary day, which is September 8th, of course. Of course, you knew that. I'm going to suggest that there's probably not enough time for your absentee ballot to make a round trip through the Postal Service. So the stuff they were talking about, visiting the clerk's office, getting the ballot, fill it out, turn it in. There's a lot of ways to make sure your vote gets counted. And really the primary is so important. I just can't overstate that. We need the down ticket candidates. We need good people in underneath, because otherwise we've got a figurehead and a bunch of dysfunction in our government. And we should have the primary is the time when you can vote for the person you really want. You might be stuck with somebody come the general. That's all I'm going to say about that. But right now you have choices, and you can take a few minutes to educate yourself as to who the best candidate is. In my opinion, Andrew Volinsky for governor, you couldn't go wrong. Plug. what else can I say? Oh, to be on the show. So if you would like to be on the show, if you are a down ticket candidate, or if you have some wholesome business, wholesome activity that you'd like to share with us, please let me know. And that doesn't have to look like a half an hour of your time coming to my studio. That doesn't have to look like a half an hour of me in your house, which is actually more like 2 hours of me in your house. We have been, as you can just tell from what we saw, we've been making all kinds of adaptations to get the show done. So we can go indoors, outdoors, your place or mine, a Zoom call. We will find a way to get things done with safety in mind and still get our messages out. So 10 minutes by Zoom is a fine segment for this show. If you've got a whole hour to talk about what you got going on, I've got an hour too. I'd be glad to help you out. So get me at the information below. Send me an email. You can Facebook me. You can call my phone if you have that information. If you'd like to be on the show as a guest, if you'd like to host the show and either do what I'm doing, the hello, goodbye part in the beginning, if you'd like to do the interview, if you'd like to do the whole darn thing, this can be an opportunity for journalists or political science majors, anybody who would like to be on camera and talk about the things that matter. Again, I'll put my information down below. Send me an email to say hello, and we'll take it from there. I hope you do. I'd like to talk to as many people as possible and give as many people as possible their fair share of time to get the message out. Yeah, I'll go more into that a little later, but that is the point of this show, is to let people speak who might otherwise not get a word in edgewise, particularly on the networks. You know how that works. So that is my show. This is my show, and that is it for today. And I'm Dave Kirkpatrick, and we'll see you next time.